Hey, what's going on, guys? So we're bringing you back with another tutorial. I wanted to redo one of the older videos I had on my channel. It's like tips and tricks anatomy, I think it was called. Um, I was watching that video and it is very old, and so I wanted to redo it. So instead of doing anatomy, because anatomy is such a complex thing, where you can there's all different kinds of muscles. For just as an example, if I draw something out real quick, right, and we're doing like a third 2/3 view, right? There's gonna be the lats in the back, there's the pectoris over here, the triceps, the or sorry, not the triceps, the deltoids. There's the middle deltoid, posterior, anterior, all that stuff. There's the triceps. There's all kinds of different muscles, different bones. So I didn't want to get too in depth with that because I don't know anything about anatomy. I don't want to teach you something I don't know. And so instead, I'm just gonna do some like quick sketches and maybe of how I do sketches. I do have a little bit of knowledge with anatomy, but it's nothing too crazy. Um, so we're just gonna kind of wing it today. Now, I noticed in the old video I did um like a one of the hardest things to do is to do a character facing straight towards you. So one thing I noticed is that you can actually make if you go over here to ruler, you can make a symmetrical ruler, and you can make one that just goes straight down like this. Now, when you do this, what happens is anything you do gets mirrored on the other side. So I know VTuber artists use that a lot to make their models, but with VTuber models, it is usually facing towards you, and that helps out with making like a symmetrical build. So instead of starting off from there, what I'm gonna do is let's before we start anything, I just wanna talk about the pens that I'm using. So I have two kinds of sketching pens. This one is like it has a little bit of line variation. If I go bigger, it even though this circle is this size, right? If it's this big, it still barely applies pressure. I have to, even at my max pressure, it doesn't really fill up the whole circle. Now, the other pen that I like to use for sketching is not that one. This one, which has no line pressure. So no matter how much pressure I put, how big it is, it's gonna. I have to change my brush size to get any kind of line variation. So I like this one. It's also a little bit of opacity, so that way I can just kind of sketch. Like I'm not really too worried about line variation and stuff like that. And then I can always come over this with another pen later. Now that that's out of the way, it's very fast, as you can see. Like it's just get some stuff down on the page, and then I can refine it later. So with that said, we're gonna get rid of this, and then do the symmetrical ruler that I mentioned earlier. If you hold shift while you do it, it goes straight down. So that's good. And just so you guys can see easier, I'm gonna be using the no line variation pen. I call it lining 4. So started off, we start off with the circle, right? Every Whenever you watch any kind of video on how to draw, you start off with your circle. You can add the chin if you want. It'll just help with um like helping you know where like it is. But then Next, we're gonna do a line going down. That's gonna be our spine. One straight line going this way, or as straight as you can, make it. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's gonna be our collarbone. This is where our shoulders are gonna be attached. So I lately like to use squared off shoulders like this, and then your rib cage. So your rib cage looks like this, and then it stops a little before them halfway point. Oh, my eraser does not. There we go. When you're doing this, you also need to like do it in your settings. I'll do a video on this later if people want me to. But like your eraser does not clip to. I'll do it right now. I think you have to. I forget how to do it. It's like you have to go into your settings of your brush and make sure it registers with the symmetrical tool. But if people want me to, I can do like a short on that later. But now that we have this laid out, halfway through is where we're gonna cut off the top part of the torso and the bottom part of the torso. And I like to think of the bottom part as two parts. So there's the hips area where your bone's gonna be, your hip bone, and then the underwear area, like Superman underwear. And you don't really want to make it like a triangle like this because there is a gap in between the legs. And now that we have this basic shape underway, we can add some joints. So one thing you can do is just, if you're feeling a little bit, you can just use lines. Like if you're feeling a little imposed, you can use lines. Um, the start of your wrists, where your hand is gonna start, is usually around where your crotch is. So I think I need to bring this up a bit. And then, as I mentioned earlier, this is your collarbone. Your trapezius muscle is gonna be here. You know that the slant up to your neck. And then once you get good at this, you can start playing with proportions. So like here, I don't like how big my head is. So I can always change that later. Like drawing is supposed to be fun, so you can always just play around with it. And, you know, edit stuff later. Nothing's set in stone, especially with digital. That's one of the benefits of drawing digitally. So now that we have these lines here, I can add the meat, like tubes. So think of the lines as your bones, and then this is you know, the meat, the muscles, and all that. You can just go with basic shapes if you don't know your anatomy. And as you practice, you can just kind of feel out the shapes. Eventually, I would recommend learning your anatomy. Like as I mentioned earlier, I know a little bit, and that's just enough to get me going. So my last video, I knew like near near nothing. I know a little bit more now. So I had a really hard time with the legs before. If you look at my old art, especially, I never drew past about here or like here because I didn't know how to draw legs. But now I've been practicing and I kind of do now. So this is all too small. So we're actually, or it's taking up too much space on the canvas. I can't do like a full picture. So we're gonna make it smaller. I actually, personally, I like, does this work? Yes. Personally, I like broader shoulders. But if you're going with like an anime style, I don't like broader shoulders are not really common in like anime, but I prefer a broader top half over the bottom half. But of course, you're able to, art is art. You can change it however you want. I have a bad habit of drawing pigeon toes. So there's little habits that you pick up here and there. So like this triangle that I do here is always so that I know where the ankles are, and that starts off with my feet, or that's where my feet starts off. Then you can simplify like your knees. Just think of it like she's wearing shin guards. FYI, I only know how to draw girls. Like I could probably get away with drawing men, but I rather not personally. Like maybe one day I'll learn. With the thigh shape, it's kind of like a how do I explain this? What I don't know what kind of shape this is. Rhombus. Um, that back. Okay, now that we got the, you can clean this up. If you want like more stylized, you can put this higher up, bring out the waist. But once you get this base figured down, it's a lot easier to go ahead and edit everything how you want. All right, so this is our starting facing us figure. Go ahead and erase all the like art thing you made, or the lines, like the sketch lines. Gonna go a little thinner. Belly button would be a little below this line right here, the midpoint. Don't go and put it in the middle. It's a little lower than the middle of the line. And then your face, you're gonna just placeholders. You can always move it around, but you just want placeholders for now. Next, we're gonna move on to 2/3 view. This is the one that I have the most practice on. But you're gonna notice while I'm doing the 2/3 view, so same thing as before. We're gonna. I like to start off with the chest because that kind of determines how I'm gonna position the body. For me personally, if I start off with the circle, I don't know where I'm going from there. Same thing as before. You start off with your collarbone. You have your spine going down. I like to show where the spine is going just so I know where to place my head. So my neck is gonna be there. And then now that I know where my neck is, I can start placing my head. And this one I just kind of like play around with, like, so if we just break it down how we had it before, this is your upper half right here. Oops. And if you notice, I'm always swapping my canvas around. I do it quite often, especially when I'm doing the face. That's just something that I would recommend um practicing, just so you can. With that first image, it didn't really matter because it's like, you're looking straight ahead at them. But with this, when you're starting to like look at it at a second, third, and whatnot, you want to make sure that your faces are even and your body is even. So like if I start doing this a lot, I can kind of look at how it looks from both flipped and not flipped. Just flip your canvas, and I'll go over that in like another video when I go over faces. If you guys want like a face video, I don't think I did a face video yet, but uneven faces is like one of the first things I look at when I look at art. But okay, so if we're doing the line thing, the it's gonna start right at where the crotch is. And as I mentioned before, I like broader shoulders on my female characters. I don't know if you do. You can always make it a little smaller, make the hips wider. But now that we have the bones, we can start putting the meat. You can just do this like open palm shape for now. And then as you practice drawing hands, you can start adding the hands in. But I would try to practice as much full bodies as you can, as with reference if you can. That way you kind of get an idea of how to draw these. You're not just like practicing like one eye and then, you know, your eye is really good now, but you start drawing the rest of the body and now the rest of the body is kind of not at the same quality. Just practice everything, make everything uniform. Everything will grow in time. And we're actually going to make this smaller so I can fit the whole thing on the canvas. Um, with this 2/3 or any kind of pose in general, you want to make sure that it makes sense. Like, unless they're flying in the air like they're a superhero, you want to make sure that they're grounded. So in this case, this leg is to be my supporting leg. This is the leg that's supporting most of the weight. So you see, this looked straight to me when I drew it, but when I flip it, we're no longer straight. So that's why flipping your canvas is so important. This looks straight-ish. So that's my support. That's my main leg. That's gonna be holding up most of the weight. And this is just gonna be like, I can do something else with this leg now, either supporting it or something like that. I can do like specific parts of the body too if you guys want, except for hands. I still don't know how to draw hands. Don't ask me to do that. um but and feet, I don't know how to draw feet. But other parts of the body, I can show how I do them instead of like, this is the only way you can do them. Because as I learn, I will update these videos if you guys want me to. Okay, so this looks a little weird. Because she's farther, this side is farther away, you're not going to see as much of this arm compared to, because it's, you know, it's the arm away from us. So you're only going to see like a little bit of the shoulder. And my body's or my anatomy and all that may not be so accurate. But I trained for speed more than anything. I just like being able to draw fast. If I draw too long, I start to get annoyed and then I don't want to draw anymore or on that specific item. So I try to finish drawings as fast as possible. And then for the last one, uh, I still have trouble with it. So we will uh this one I'm just drawing like a little face so that I can give like a little example of how when you flip, it may look good, but when you flip it, it looks a little off, and that will get you even faces overall. Don't want to scrunch your face up too much to one side or too wide. I mean, that's a stylistic thing, but I've seen some. I'm getting off topic, man. But I've seen some where like it's very scrunched over to this side. that can work, but you have to change the face to kind of reflect it. Like if she's turning her head more towards one side. So that's just like a simple, simple bodies. The last one that I want to do is the side profile. So I noticed in the last video I did a solid profile. It's not really the most, what's the word? Correct. It's not like great. But I wanted to try and do a redo. This one I will start with the head because I know this one's just gonna be a side profile in this case. I'm putting my spine down, and your spine is, on your back. So this is where I'm gonna start my process. I'm going to start off with my rib cage. So instead of using boxes for this one, I like to do this tapered rib cage type. This is where my collarbone's gonna be, so that straight line that we talked about here. This is where my shoulder socket's gonna be. Spine's going down. Your spine curves. So it's not just a straight line. It comes back, curves this way. There's your lumbar area, and then it curves into your tailbone. So now that I know where all that is, we're gonna make our halfway point just like we did over here and with the um other one. When we start putting our meat on, especially when we do our underwear, you can make them as dumpy as you want. This one's a little bit more off topic. I'm actually gonna use the other pen, so it's a little bit more clean. Okay, so now that we have the main body, there's little things that you can learn, like the butt does not just go straight down like this. There's actually like a muscle over here that feeds into the buttocks area, and then your legs go here. The front of the legs, actually I'm going ahead of myself. We put the lines for this. In this case, I'm gonna not put the arms in, or like I'm just gonna leave it as like this empty socket just so you can see the rest of it. But there's a little bit of back muscles, your lats here, so it adds more to it. Like especially right here, there's gonna be a bulk of mass. Your shoulders are gonna be right here. That's your collarbone. This is gonna be your neck. This is your traps over here. And then I like to just put a triangle right there for the traps. That's the slant over here that we were talking about earlier. This right here. So now I can do my shoulder, but as I mentioned, we're not going to be doing that in this video, or I'm just going to leave it as a circle there. Now that I have that, it's kind of like a bean shape. I saw one artist, I think Cynic's Design mentioned. So if you look at this shape, it's like, right, if you simplified it down, if you didn't do all this breaking down and stuff like that. It's a bean and then with legs. So you can start off with that. Whatever makes it easier for you to understand. So now that I have my lines for my bones, the front of the leg is gonna be round like this. It's gonna be like a roundish shape. Your knee is gonna be over there where we have that first joint. I can put a line for the foot, and then the back of the leg is gonna be a straight line first. Now after the knee, it's round, and the front is flat. I like to put the triangle for the ankle, and now I can put the foot. And then you see I flipped it. It's not actually like flat, and it's a little bit more tilted forward. So that's another reason why you wanna flip your canvas. You can use the liquefy tool to just like kind of adjust it so it's a little bit more flat, a little bit more even. That's why you want to flip your canvas so often. In this case, you actually have the legs come up over here. There's this line right here. This is where this part is, right? And for girls, you're gonna have this little your your stomach comes in and then you go down into your private area. And then I'm actually gonna put some clothes on all these people after the fact so that YouTube doesn't get all angry. This is not a face video, so I don't want to really get into the face, and I struggle with side profile, but I will just do like a simple one here. So in the middle of this line right here, you're gonna put your ears. I like to just do a straight line down so that I know where my face is gonna start. Still not the best, but I'm better than what I was the last video I made. I'm trying to be a little cleaner with my sketches too. Just for the video. Well, not that one, and not the one before that one, but this one specifically. My nose is gonna go here. My lips. Down to my chin. If we're doing like a more like realistic face, then you can the nose is gonna be more like a triangle shape like this. But with anime, if you've seen anime where it's more like down, up, like that kind of shape. So I'm trying to replicate that here. This is where the eyebrows are gonna be. This is the eyebrow, like not the hair, but the meat itself. The nose is the trickiest part of this, so I struggle a bit. So now I almost had it there, but it's a little too forward. Like if you look at the distance from here to here, it's a little too much. So I'm just gonna use the liquefy tool and just kind of smush it. The smudge tool. Just smush it to where I want. No, not does not count as cheating. It's just a tool to help you. And last but not least, I'm gonna put the eyes. When you look at someone from the side, it's not your normal eye shape like this. It's more like this, like a triangle, like a uh half triangle. And then I'm repositioning the ears because the top of the ears, it kind of lines up with the front of your eye. And then the bottom of your ear lines up with your lips. It's not perfect, but for this video, uh I pretty happy with this. If you guys want more, I can go more into detail on certain stuff. Again, I'm no expert, but as I learn stuff, I will update these if you guys want me to. Um, but yeah, this is like just an update on my older one. I think in the past video I mentioned like some other stuff, like most of your bending happens at the hips, which is true. However, your spine does bend a little bit. It's not all in the hip. So you can bend your spine just a bit, but you got to be careful with how much you bend the spine. You want to make sure most of the bending is at the hips. If you guys have any other questions, anything you want me to come go over, please subscribe and comment down below what other tutorials you'd want to see. Let's just get everything out together. They're not colored, so I'm assuming YouTube will be fine with it. I was thinking of doing a colored tutorial, so if you guys want to see that, just let me know. All right, thanks for stopping by. Peace.